We have a massive Los Angeles Lakers trade update to go over today. As a brand new report has dropped, revealing some huge information surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers plans regarding Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent ahead of the trade deadline. We're going to break down those reports and discuss what this means going forward, as well as some rumors that are circulating revealing a new surprising LA Lakers target. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. Before we get into it, if you're part of the 83% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. We are on the road to 7,500 subscribers. If you want to help us towards that goal, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And again, the trade deadline is just around the corner. We're going to be producing daily videos. But the big conversation over the past few weeks has been obviously Walker Kessler, but over the past few days, it has been Miles Turner. But what's kind of been lost in this is the value that other teams have on the current Lakers players that are available for trade, talking about Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, some of the other guys as well. And we obviously know the Lakers have their 2 first-round picks, but some reports have come out revealing some new details surrounding their assets. Lakers trade rumors, Gabe Vincent has negative value. Rui isn't a positive asset. And this is actually a little bit surprising because, Rui Hachimura is a starter for most of the season for the Lakers. Basically, the report goes on to say this: if the Lakers want to make any moves of significance prior to the deadline, they aren't likely to find many takers for either Gabe Vincent or Rui Hachimura without getting something else of value attached to a deal. On the latest episode of his YouTube show, The Athletic's Jovan Buha noted teams around the NBA consider Vincent a negative value and Hachimura is at best considered neutral value, but no one considers him a positive asset. And basically, in most of the trades we've been discussing here, Rui Hachimura has been used as salary filler to go along with multiple first-round picks. Now, when it comes to the actual value of these guys, it becomes interesting because Rui Hachimura has obviously started drafted by the Wizards and then get traded over to LA. He's been very instrumental in this team being pretty solid. Now, we know JJ Redick has liked using him in certain ways. He is not a good defender. He absolutely has his shortcomings. Not a great ball handler, not a good defender, not a great facilitator, but he provides some scoring and he's a long forward. Now, when you're looking at what he could give another team, I think there's a world where some other contending team or maybe a team on the fringe of contention, if they are giving up some of their assets, getting Rui Hachimura back wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because it allows your team to still compete. And obviously the most obvious example would be a team like, you think about the Miami Heat, who are obviously trading Jimmy Butler but still want to remain in contention. I am not saying the Heat would want Rui Hachimura in a deal for Jimmy Butler or anything like that, and the Lakers obviously aren't really involved in Jimmy Butler, but we're seeing teams where they have players, stars that are forcing their way out like Jimmy Butler, and now players like Rui Hachimura who are still, borderline starting caliber players, maybe a sixth man on a very good team. To see that he doesn't have any positive value is interesting, and I think as a part of any deal, let's say Miles Turner to the Pacers still want to compete. So I think the Pacers would value a guy like Rui Hachimura, plus, of course, you're getting your 2 first-round picks. We're not talking about Rui Hachimura headlining any deals here. It would be Hachimura plus a couple firsts in order to get a guy like Miles Turner. It would make some sense for both sides. Now, as it pertains to Gabe Vincent, if he is a negative asset, obviously he would be used as salary filler with his $9 million or so salary, whatever it is. And with that salary filler, you're not getting anything back for Gabe Vincent. He was good with the Heat. They used his mid-level exception to get him. And then ever since then, he's been pretty bad on the LA Lakers. We've saw some spurts this year of decent play from Vincent. You can see this here. Vincent has been a huge disappointment since signing his 3-year, $33 million deal. So about $11 million a year. The expectation was he would give them a reliable backcourt defender and hope his shooting performance for the Heat in the playoffs would stick. Instead, he missed most of last season due to his knee. He's been healthy for most of this season. He's just not playing well. And obviously, you always have a risk when signing somebody coming off of a very good playoff run. In this case, Gabe Vincent, we saw him with the Heat in 2023. He had a very good playoff run. He was rewarded with that 3-year deal. You think about some other players. Jalen Brunson had a very good playoff run alongside Luka. Got paid heftily from the Knicks, and it's worked out very well. So there is some interesting, ways. You think even way back in 2016 with Bismack Biyombo, he played great with the Raptors in the playoffs and they got a huge deal and it worked out terribly. So it's always risky giving deals like that. And in this case for Gabe Vincent, it hasn't worked out well at all. And I don't think the Lakers are going to go out of their way to trade Gabe Vincent unless they are using it as a part of a bigger deal. They're not going to do it on their own. When it comes to Rui, again, he's getting paid $17 and $18.3 million next season. It wouldn't be a surprise if the contracts for both Vincent and Hachimura are very attractive to teams at the trade deadline next year, since they are both expiring deals. And that's the big thing here. Not having much of a market for Hachimura or Vincent is one of the reasons the Lakers are believed to be targeting smaller moves. We're now 6 days out of the deadline. They're in 5th place. They've been doing fairly well. And I think it goes to show that in any move for, and we'll dive into another report here in a minute, for any move for these guys, their value isn't super high, but they are the 2 players that are most likely to be traded. Now, you can see this here. Again, we covered this a few days ago. According to players inside the locker room, they're discouraged from publicly discussing their trade targets. There's a desire for more playmaking, and that's a need that's become clear since trading D'Lo. So this is another new update here. Obviously, we know they're talking about a big man. They need a backup big man. AD has clamored for one. JJ Redick has clamored for one. Rob Pelinka, for some reason in the offseason, didn't address a backup center spot or even just a starting center spot so that way they can move AD to his most natural position, which is at the 4, like they won when they won in the bubble with JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, all those different guys, mainly JaVale McGee playing the starting center. Now, as you start to look at what this means for this season, yes, they need a backup center, absolutely, but they also need a playmaker as well. We talk about Shake Milton. JJ Redick came out and kind of spoke about him. Hasn't been great. And you obviously have some bench scoring, but they got rid of their backup point guard. Obviously now you could, argue that Max Christie could play it. You obviously have Austin Reaves, Max Christie, you have Dorian Finney-Smith, all these different guys, AD dealing with an injury now. So things start to get a little bit interesting. Walker Kessler is obviously the big name that is on the table. He's a great defender. He's a great rebounder. He is a great player. And he's young. He's only 23 years old. But as you start to think about what the Lakers can do within this, it starts to become very interesting. Again, you think back to this trade. This was from weeks ago before Nick Richards was shipped off. Nick Richards would have been the perfect fit for this Los Angeles Lakers team. It only cost seconds. Unfortunately, the Lakers weren't able to outbid them. So now you can see this here from Evan Sittery. Keep an eye on the Hawks pursuing Brandon Ingram ahead of the deadline. Now, there's been a lot of rumblings about Brandon Ingram getting traded, whether it be to the Atlanta Hawks, whether it be to the Toronto Raptors. You can see this here. I could see the Lakers possibly joining in this trade to get Clint Capella. And that we'll have a full video on it, but that's a very interesting one as well because Clint Capella is a player who is definitely past his prime. He's older, but if you want someone who can try to, emulate some of what Walker Kessler can do, and he probably emulate, 60% of what Kessler can do at half of the cost, then you're starting to think about now, okay, you package some things up, you maybe give, again, I don't think Capella's, he's definitely not going to cost a first-round pick or anything like that, but he's a good, solid rim protector, solid pick-and-roll player. He can't shoot, but he can at least let AD go back to what he is good at, which is playing the 4 and really being comfortable there. And then you pair that with some of the ideas of, again, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, you have salary to match. Clint Capella is an extremely interesting asset for this team and one that I think that, at this point, if the Lakers aren't going to make huge splashes, getting involved in some 3 to 4 team deals would be an interesting way to go about it, especially if, according to Windhorst here, the Brandon Ingram talks are really starting to pick up, specifically with the Toronto Raptors as well. So there might be some avenues there. We know they're not interested in Jonas Valanciunas. We saw how bad Jonas actually was. He'd be a terrible fit for this team. You think about Jakob Poeltl, they're not interested in him. He would have been an interesting one. I don't think the Raptors are going to give up on him unless it's for at least a first. So you now start to think about what they can do. It's going to be a lot of question marks going forward. But again, the trade value of these guys has been revealed. The new targets have been revealed. And things are starting to get a little bit interesting as we're now a week away from the trade deadline. And the players can't discuss who they want, but they definitely need a backup center for sure. Borderline someone who can play starting center because, again, we're talking about backup center, but if AD wants to play that 4, they have Jackson Hayes, who had a great game yesterday. You have Christian Koloko, but neither of those guys are championship caliber, even backup centers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We're going to keep you updated with all of this news. Thank you guys for watching.